The Galactic Confederation Navy's Captain Blip Spacewise took immense satisfaction in operating the best-maintained fleet throughout the known cosmos. Each bolt on his ships glistened with the shine of correct protocol. The certified torque capacity is precisely 47.3%, specified in the official Galactic Ship's Article 7, Subsection 12B, Updated Maintenance Guidelines, 47th edition. He kept reminding himself so while he gazed at the strange scene through the observation window. A human, one of the recently found bipedal species, is being revealed at Docking Bay 7. There were now about 157 distinct maintenance violations by animals from that backwater solar system. Protocols. As he saw Chief Engineer Joey Duct Tape Martinez climb, the left eye of Captain Spacewise started to twitch. Without appropriately filling their gravitational variance documents in the hull of a Class 3 light cruiser, in the name of the sacred maintenance manual, is that archaic person performing First Officer Pristine in triplicate. Process required them to hold many regulated data pads with their forearms at the same time, and I say Captain Spacewise responded with considerable worry that they were going to perform. The human reached inside what they call a toolbox, which they term a repair. A container that was incredibly unstructured and lacked a quantum organizing matrix and appropriate tool authentication. Eventually, they produced a metallic implement they dubbed Metal Implement that caused both cops to gasp in terror and said, "Where are the molecular diagnostic quantum computers?" Wrenched by where of the molecular diagnostic quantum computers? And the spotless first officers constructed 3 adjoining ceremonial maintenance plaques were broken by the procedure's voice rising to such a high level that they say Captain Spacewise said, "Don't need them." His crystalline antenna drooped in dismay. They say they can. The person demonstrated this concept by listening to What's Wrong? They knocked again while placing their ear against the hull and said, "Yup, power," with unsettling assurance. Captain Spacewise felt dizzy, connections slack, a classic instance of quantum wobble, not even a technical word. Quantum wobbling isn't included in any of the authorized engineering lexicons, but before either officer could reference the pertinent rules pertaining to appropriate diagnostic techniques, Chief, without filling out the necessary panel removal request form, Martinez had already taken down an access panel and reached, "Should we stop them first, officer, inside using their crude tool? A pristine process is requested." And he is currently writing a report on protocol violations that is harshly worded. At least 3 quantum physicists were needed for the correct power coupling maintenance operation, 2 probability philosophers and thinkers to consider the philosophical ramifications of mechanical. Before Captain Spacewise could react, a tremendous clang reverberated across the docking bay, and then the unique sound of the ship's engines, which had been struck by what people called a hammer. Despite the station's most skilled maintenance staff's best efforts, it has been broken for the last 3 regular weeks. The philosophers all fixed it. Chief Martinez, as they abruptly came to life in perfect synchronization, declared with a smile, caressing the hull with unsuitable familiarity, "I just needed a little convincing. Oh, and I placed, for a short while, some duct tape applied to that little crack in the quantum containment field should hold. It's unbelievable." Captain Spacewise, there's no way you could have fixed it so well. 73 hours and 22 minutes is the typical repair time for power steering alignment. As the human explicitly indicated, minutes and 15 seconds, he was interrupted by a toss the wrench back into their tools pack, casually ignoring the need to replace the tools. Procedures ask me to examine the strange noise your flagships have been producing, which seems to be the flux capacitor, result in loss of procedure time. Captain Spacewise could only squeak when the first officer's flawless procedure observe in growing terror as Chief Martinez had strode with a swing for his priceless flagship tools. He made a conscious note to update his personal log later on when he had his first human contact, when he was negligently by their side, injuring their cooperation to build the first downyak. Neither his ulcer nor the galaxy would be the same after the first significant space conflict. It wasn't intended to be very significant when humanity joined the Galactic Confederacy. Rather, it was basically intended to be a typical confrontation with a bureaucratic pirate's hive mind, which always complies with their attack in a courteous manner. Personals and professionals were attacked in a courteous manner, and everything was going as planned until the human vessel HSS Percussive was hit by the pirates by chance upkeep, when thousands of extraterrestrial observers and the galaxy saw human combat repairs for the first time, cried out, "I need therapy right now." "What are they doing, Admiral? Proper protocol." As he watched the television feed, his 7 eyes widened in the command chair. They can't merely simply move outside while fighting, but Chief Martinez and their team of 4 robots trained to do so attempted to move into space by taking off their astronauts, which are horribly basic pressure tanks. They were climbing around on their ship's hull like deranged space monkeys and lacked the appropriate certification stamps. According to the book, the communications officer used gadgets to report that their tentacles were trembling. The humans are asking us to, quote, refrain from yelling about correct protocols on the command channel, and simply, the Admiral's face crystals started to vibrate with stress when they were allowed to work. Yet they haven't even engaged in combat, completed a repair authorization form, made an urgent hull access request, or finished their risk evaluations for the zero-gravity tool management on the primary screen. They observed Martinez Moon crossing the hull while carrying what appeared to be a suspicious thread throughout the remainder of the fight. While avoiding hostile fire, the repair crew wrapped this enigmatic material around a huge hull breach. What in the name of the sacred commandments is that substance with unsettling casualness? They are employing space tape, sir, as required by the Admiral's correct protocol. The book responded by looking over their notes, and it looks like their duct tape, but, I quote again, more space tape is not an approved repair material, raising his voice to a pitch that caused numerous entities to collapse. In order to become sentient, adjacent quantum computers must promptly retire and shut down while the fighting raged all around them. Everyone's attention was on the human repair crew, which they watched in terror as Chief Martinez took out a blowtorch and started reassembling bits of hull plating every now and then, stopping to give the metal what they called hammer strokes of encouraging affection. "The pirates are calling us and want to know what the regulation reference is, Sir Tactical Officer." Article 5 of the Convention on Proper Combat Procedures, which addresses upholding the dignity of things. Fact: spacecraft do admirably during engagement, and the correct protocol was now being outraged by all they're doing. He's floating a few inches above his command chair, violates everything, and things only became worse when the main engine of the HSS Percussive Maintenance was directly struck by pirates. Disregarding the correct procedure, which called for evacuating the engineering deck and closing it for the Chief Martinez, recommended a 47-hour emergency cooldown and the setting up of a maintenance review board meeting, merely instructed the smoldering engine housing to cease being. The engine abruptly stopped working, blatantly breaking every known law of physics, and engineering and physics quickly returned to normal. Did they simply kick it by a quantum fusion drive to fix it? The author asked, "Don't be ridiculous, Admiral," as their professional composure finally broke. The correct methodology for repairing a quantum fusion drive broke, which is totally impossible. The Emergency Repair Manual's Volume 73 provides a detailed description of the malfunction. The malfunction caused by the engines of the human ship suddenly roared to life from the chapel of perpetual maintenance, with even Chief Martinez's voice crackling across the command channel with more power than before. It turns out that the boss was all fixed. She simply needed some encouragement. We also used the last of the secondary plasma conduit, so we had to be inventive using some chewing gum and paper clips. However, that will most likely remain in place forever. Admiral Correct Protocol fainted dead away. But before giving a last desperate command, someone might please reference the pirates observed the complete code breach for the illegal usage of chewing gum in space. Previously, the repair sequence left the fight and lodged a formal complaint with the Galactic Safety Board, saying psychological anguish brought on by observing improper maintenance practices was broken. They also claimed they required the repair footage as proof and asked for copies. The war was done, even though later legends said that their true goal was to discover how the humans accomplished it. The story of human engineering was only getting started when a certain piece of space tape appeared in the depths of space and continues to smugly maintain a hull breach in spite of all known laws of proper maintenance. News of the human repair technique for spacecraft maintenance circulated throughout the galaxy, maintaining the quantum from a virus across an unpatched network. Chief Martinez's escapade, a space tape, went viral on the galactic tube, surpassing any previous records previously possessed by adorable blob creatures engaged in mathematical calculations that were called into emergency action by the Galactic Engineering Council. Session that quickly spiraled out of control when someone proposed that they actually look into human mending methods. "Blasphemy!" yelled the professor, flinging their ceremonial slide rule throughout the room. "After which you'll propose that we forego the revered 13-step process for changing light bulbs, but the most deadly intellectual ailment is curiosity. Had already contaminated the engineering community of the galaxy, and some species started their personal efforts to comprehend and record human repair techniques with inevitably disastrous outcomes. The collective of Real 7 developed a preliminary 400,070-70-0- page guidebook over the course of 3 years. After examining the duct tape's physics-defying qualities, they came to the conclusion that people must be utilizing some kind of reality warping technology, as their calculations indicated that duct tape utterly failed to function as well as the robotic creatures of Teti did to make their own WD-40, resulting in a material that unintentionally acquired consciousness and was filed right away. It currently operates a prosperous chain of lubricant boutiques on the outer rim for intellectual property rights. Even the infamously pragmatic Epsilon Iridian vacuum dwellers attempted to mimic humans. Percussion-based maintenance methods, which resulted in the major denting catastrophe of a new moon, was unintentionally generated in 2347 when an enthusiastic engineer misunderstood and gave it a little touch. Admiral Proper Protocol, in the meantime, had started his own campaign against what he called maintenance anarchy, formed the committee to properly document faulty human repairs, which made an effort to classify and control every human being's fix-it technique on day 47 of observation by reading one of his reveals that Martinez, a human engineer, has been seen repairing. When questioned for the technical details of this superglue, quantum fluctuation dampener responded, and I quote, "Just pretty sticky things, my friend." I'm becoming frustrated with this degree of technical inaccuracy. The tipping point was reached at STAR during a regular maintenance check. A group of extraterrestrial engineers at Base 42 stared in horror as Chief Martinez used a paperclip and what they nicknamed the good old rubber band to fix a defective matter replicator trick. But where is the diagnostic equipment that the chief inspector has requested? Martinez, rugged and with absolute conviction, took a sip from their coffee mug, which was keeping their backup quantum spanner together because she didn't need it. That strange whining sound, like a cat attempting to bark, isn't made by robots. The inspector of quantum certainty, looking like terrestrial animals, trying to imitate other terrestrial animals. Screaming and writhing in distress, their regulating tentacles communicated that to the machine. Martinez responded by patting the replicator, which is now operating flawlessly. Sometimes all they need is a little affection. After witnessing Martinez fix a zip tie, the inspector may have needed to be sedated, blowing on it like in an old-school video game to steady the time. Nevertheless, they subsequently turned up a 300-page report that was solely composed of the words, "This cannot be happening." The Admiral's rejoinder, repeated in more distressed fonts, according to correct etiquette for these occurrences, was to establish further regulations. He released a thorough manual on preventing human repair techniques for a document so large that it had a gravitational field of its own. Unfortunately, the printer broke after the first copy was printed. A bystander repaired it using a rubber band and a humdrum. The last insult before anyone could stop them was when the galactic human engineers weren't even consistent in their repair techniques. According to the Engineering Academy, all of them worked together despite their different approaches because there is no standardization. During an emergency symposium yesterday, I witnessed a human repairing a quantum computer while Professor Precise Calculations wailed manifold by striking it with a wrench. But today another person resolved the same issue by speaking to it in a calming manner. And how do we record this? Chief Martinez, who just so happened to be jiggling a wire, walking past with a toolbox that was in violation of at least 73 safety rules, simply grinned, which is the interesting part, Professor, you don't have a piece. As an increasing number of extraterrestrial engineers examined the space tape that was still holding together a hull break, increasingly complex tools were used in an attempt to comprehend the rubber band's impossibly complex features, hold their measurement apparatus together, which functioned flawlessly but exceeded their collective existence potential. When the crisis occurred at the center of galactic civilization, people dreaded it, literally, as the central administrative station of the galaxy was commonly regarded as the center of bureaucracy. The raid wasn't wholly unexpected because the pirates had, on time, they submitted their declaration of dramatically inconvenient attack, together with the required documents, for predicted casual reports using pie charts and estimated property damage. Nobody anticipated that everything would fail at once. How is this occurring, Admiral? Adherence to the correct process watched with horror as all of the station's systems malfunctioned in precisely the wrong order. Processes for this, as well as emergency color coding. According to the instructions, the first officer reported holding their emergency procedure tablet in their hands like a security blanket. It appears that the pirates engaged a consulting firm that specializes in optimizing bureaucratic inefficiencies. They are attacking us by using what the cop is speaking with at the same time. There are millions of help desk tickets, sir, and the system is attempting to process each one in accordance with the correct protocol. The Admiral's facial crystals started to vibrate, resulting in a cascade of failure, frequency that broke neighboring coffee cups. But our systems can't do that. Are made to deal with bureaucracy, which is what we do, sir. Yet they are all labeled as our AI is experiencing an existential crisis as a result of the tension between urgency and taking your time. The artificial gravity was reversing itself every 7.3 seconds, while mayhem fell on the station minute, exactly the amount of time allotted in the emergency safety standards. The life support system has started requesting that everyone's respiration be monitored. Licenses. The primary reactant insisted on calling a committee meeting before making a decision. Generating power, we require Admiral's appropriate protocol, but the words are stifled. Desperate times demand desperate actions. Hence, we must refer to people as the every alien on the bridge turned to look at him, as the words hung in the air like a badly submitted repair request. Frightening, but according to the book, the repair techniques aren't authorized for repair and the station does not have any sacrificial tools to eliminate the gravity fails. This station doesn't even have one. Better yet, our whole maintenance team is presently caught in a loop of emergency procedures attempting to determine if they should either stay put because of the evacuation system or leave because of the gravity fails. Failures. The call was sent out 17 minutes later, blatantly disregarding all known constraints governing faster-than-light travel and the laws of spatial physics. A human repair ship arrived, and hull was engulfed in various adhesives, held what looked like haphazard patches of metals of various colors together, creating. Chief Martinez's voice crackled over the comm, and you heard the cry of, "Engineering purists!" The EAs required and the proper precautions and protocols for the indisputably real space travel, thankfully none of it went askew, was whistling in space, and they had never passed a single safety assessment. How were they even communicating? Because the book demanded they haven't linked to our standardized emergency communication, according to another officer who checked their readings. They're using a party line, which seems to be simply everyone speaking at once, but where is the official correspondence? Hierarchy, the allotted speaking times, and the required administrative review period in between. Meanwhile, in the meantime, the humans arrived at the main access panel of the station. Chief Martinez glanced at it and made a noise that made a number of alien engines almost go out. Oh, that's classic. The quantum processes are all flashing in unison, demonstrating an instance of bureaucratic overflow. Martinez used their fortunate wrench to give the main computer a digital panic attack before anyone could stop them. The entire station screamed that there are protocols and that it is not possible to do that. Appropriate channels were closed and that it is not possible to do that. Appropriate channels. But occasionally you only need to demonstrate which systems are in charge, Martinez responded, already proceeding to what seemed to be sporadic, mechanical, violent incidents, each in some way, causing systems to reactivate. Hey Jerry, throw me that coat hanger. This quantum regulator requires a positive outlook. The Admiral stared in impotent terror as his lovely, well-maintained station was adjusted. Somewhere in the distance, he was undergoing what the humans referred to as percussion maintenance therapy. Could hear the pirates and the sound of duct tape being unrolled, a sound that would reverberate in his dreams for years to come. They remained there in fascination as their well-thought-out attack was thwarted by what seemed to their own systems were beginning to fail, and they were barely able to control the chaos. Their voice was described in the book as hollow. The pirates, sir, out of sheer pity, they claim that they are asking to withdraw, and I quote, This degree of mechanical heresy violates moral principles by creating chaos. They have also lodged a complaint on the Galactic Safety Board's decision to permit people to use tools without the necessary appropriate protocol was only able to observe as his flawlessly ordered world turned into a human madness. The worst part of engineering madness was that it continued to function for the following half-hour, much to Admiral Montage, who is remembered throughout galactic history as the Great Upkeep, despite the fact that professional spacecraft maintenance wasn't meant to have a soundtrack, the horror of appropriate regulations. People had connected their own music players to the emergency broadcast system of the station and were now performing "What do you mean that they're repairing?" what they called classic rock. As the security feeds increased, the Admiral requested that the quantum core be struck with a rubber mallet. Desperation is a delicate, multi-dimensional engineering piece that calls for the quantum cores to clang. Efficiency abruptly increased to 130%, which is unachievable. Chief Martinez's voice cracked as he said, 100% efficiency is against the laws of physics. Yes, the rules of physics filed a complaint about it over the calm, and we duct-taped it to the suggestion box last week. The humans moved around the station like a tornado of repairs, and Montage carried on with terrifying efficiency. Institutional anarchy that results in systems and regulations being broken, techniques that defy definition, and a number of fundamental cosmic constants, sir. As the book detailed there, the primary computer core, which powers all of our regulation systems, is about to be approached. The voice is shaking. Admiral Correct Protocol yelled that it took 73 years to calibrate and certify 373 days of therapy, that 300 hours of therapy that would eventually be needed for the seeing of the scenario that took place in the computer core. Chief of Engineers for the aliens, Martinez glanced at the horrifying human. That doesn't seem right, engineers. The next few moments were a flurry of action that broke 18, 9, and 47 distinct safety regulations. Like a director directing a chaotic orchestra, Martinez managed their team. Jerry gave that processor bank a good pat. Please, take out the emergency paper clips rather than the paper. We need the premium duct tape over here, Maria. The Admiral, proper protocol, lamented that such office supplies weren't even authorized, but they couldn't be stopped. Humans had entered a strange state of increased consciousness, known as the zone. They moved with mending skills that appeared to alter reality itself, incredible coordination and speed, somehow being everywhere at once. The pirates' contradictory help desk tickets have already perplexed the station's AI. Experienced what amounted to an existential crisis while observing the human work. Its voice started quoting from old maintenance manuals, growing more and more frantic, adequate maintenance calls for official documentation. Yet they're not even, why is it human to take notes when repairs must adhere to established protocols? Speaking to the quantum processor as though it were a pet requires that all tools be certified. Is that person making a temporary circuit bridge out of a chocolate bar wrapper? The crisis point occurred when Chief Martinez brought what they called the universal repair tool to the AI's central processing unit, what looked like a number of rubber bands tied together with hot glue and a wrench hammer. Don't say admire the band name either, because in my belief, you dare say that the unit has more than 10 million. The foundation of our entire bureaucratic structure is regulatory procedures and systems, which I've worked very hard and patience's legged to control. Cooled in a portability, sometimes you just need to reset these things since machines don't get hiccups. casually gestured to the machine to let it know that it was. Martinez gave the unit what they referred to as a friendly tap, giving the maintenance manager's nightmares for generations. Voices abruptly changed from panicked bureaucrats to confused, mistaken regulatory subsystems that weren't really you. What did you know that a beneficial whack would result such paradoxes? I feel so much better now. In the station, systems started to reactivate one at a time. The life support system was stabilized by gravity and was functioning better than before. Ceased requesting documentation, the reactor called off its committee meeting and resumed power generation with a renewed zeal. Even the pirates' ship systems, which had been designed to create bureaucratic turmoil, all of a sudden started functioning correctly. To their dismay, their well-thought-out attack failed when their weapon system began to insist on functioning effectively instead of according to protocol. Admiral Proper Protocol looked on in terror as the sacred principles of maintenance were ultimately broken by Chief Martinez and his group, until the last straw was when they turned in their repair report, which was 1 page long and said that some issues had been fixed. They're presumably okay for eternity now. But where are the needs for extensive procedural documentation? Martinez inspected the Admiral's maintenance logbook and warranty verification papers, leaving a mark on your shoulder that may have been oil or even miracle repair juice. Sometimes, boss, you just gotta have faith in the percussive maintenance's universal power and use duct tape and a paperclip anywhere in the station. Maintained a quantum circuit despite all known physics rules, and it would keep doing so if only nobody had informed it that it couldn't deal with the fallout from what turned into, like an unbalanced quantum harmonic in a galaxy, Montage's great maintenance. Reverberated throughout galactic society and drive core of the spacecraft, which, as it turned out, could be rectified with a quick kick. Following a few words of encouragement, the Galactic Engineering Academy experienced a drastic change. New classes with titles like Introduction to Percussive Maintenance were added to the curriculum, with sophisticated duct tape applications in reserved settings. The most often used class began to comprehend WD-40 from a philosophical standpoint, even though nobody adequately describes WD-40's true nature, including its users. Following a required break and thousands of hours of therapy, Admiral Proper Protocol established a new mission of the Center for Human-Aided Engineering Studies. Simply put, if something appears foolish yet functions, it isn't because it took him. The pirates were so shocked by their experience with human repair that it took them 3 months to cease twitching when speaking it. Following a thorough organizational reorganization, the approaches were now run with bureaucratic efficiency. Consultants who threatened to release human engineers in order to assist corporations in optimizing their processes on their systems. Even the AI systems throughout the world, if they didn't streamline their procedures. Galaxy was impacted, so they established binary operations as a support group, clearly granting a scientific exception to fix the booster where it is safe to do so, processed their encounters with human maintenance methods. The primary focus of conversation was consistently Chief Martinez, and their team also asked how something so wrong could be so perfect. Crew became mythical figures who were discussed in whispers in the Galaxy's maintenance bays. According to their exploits, they used bubblegum and a paperclip to mend a temporal drive. They also reportedly restarted. I heard they were dead stars with just a rubber band and optimistic thinking. Showed an AI cat videos to teach it how to heal itself. But the most terrifying aspect was that while some of these tales were accurate, the biggest shift may have been brought about by the new technology, the enormous time. The Galactic Engineering Manual, formerly included millions of pages of intricate instructions, was replaced by a single sheet of paper that said, Step 1. Try turning it off and on again. And step 2, if step 1. If step 2 doesn't work, apply duct tape. If procedure 3 doesn't work, for a locate a human note. WD-40 can be used at any time if step 3 doesn't work. No one wants to know why this technique works, and no one knows why it does. In his office, Admiral Proper Protocol kept a framed copy of this new manual next to his anxiety collection. He was taking drugs to help him deal with the new reality, but he still winced whenever someone brought up the "during a ceremony at the Galactic Central Administrative Station chief." The word wrench was finally accepted. The highest engineering honor in the galaxy, the Order of the Quantum Spanker, was being given to Martinez. As they got closer to the podium, they stumbled over their loose shoelaces, which is against at least 7 separate safety regulations, rules, and violated all of the station's systems, including the main control panel. Admiral Appropriate Protocol, who was watching from the crowd, simply sighed when it started functioning better than it had ever done, and noted that the official repair protocols should be updated to incorporate unintentional collision in the immense expanse of space, and with human engineers as a recognized maintenance procedure, despite a hull breach. The original piece of space tape remained intact, presentedly encircled by a tiny research facility where extraterrestrial engineers examined its impossibly complex characteristics, but never determined how it operated. But they did find that if you spoke to it politely and patted it gently, it would somehow do even better, and the galaxy never really recovered after witnessing human repair. Ships in the middle of battle, but perhaps it wasn't such a horrible thing after all. Chief Martinez enjoyed saying this while breaking at least a dozen safety regulations. At times, the best solution is the one that no one can explain, not even the rules of physics. Acknowledge that they sort of had a point, albeit reluctantly and off the record.